You forgot the first rule of remakes, Jill. Don't fuck with the original.
Hey everybody! Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return is coming out this Friday in theaters, and you know what that means?
Half of this review will be in black and white.
It's a podcast. It actually has no color whatsoever.
That's what you think. Use your mind, man.
This also means another episode of Don't F with the Original.
With Nicholas, the viewing correspondent for Idiomatic.
And I'm Dimitri, editor-in-chief of Idiomatic.com and movie critic. For those of you who don't know, what we do at Don't F with the Original is when a remake, sequel, what you have it, comes out, we review the original that started the franchise and give some of our impressions and expectations as to the latest entry in said franchise. In this case, of course, that means we are going to talk about 1939's The Wizard of Oz, directed by Victor Fleming.
Yep.
Now, before anyone calls us on it, we are very well aware that there is actually a earlier film adaptation. I think it's 1910, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz. But it's a short film, so we don't give a shit.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. That's interesting.
So, for those of you who don't know, by which I mean people living under a rock, The Wizard of Oz tells the story of Kansas girl Dorothy, who gets caught in a tornado after getting in a fight with her neighbor who wants to take away her dog.
Yeah.
She gets caught in a tornado and then gets transported over the rainbow into the land of Oz. She wants to get back home. She kills a witch.
Yeah.
The witch's sister wants revenge. And,
Not sure she wants revenge as much as she wants for the shoes. But,
that's
you know.
true. That's true. Although the shoes are rightfully hers.
Yeah, and they are fabulous. So, you know, I mean,
So Dorothy wants to get back home. To do that, she has to see the wizard, and to do that, she has to follow the yellow brick road, and on her way, she meets a lion, a robot, and a scarecrow. And you know how this story goes, people. This story is as old as time at this point, if time is barely a century old.
yeah. Well, actually, the book were written in previous centuries, so it is. Oh, wait,
That's true, it's more than a century old, that's right. But what did you think of it, Nick?
I really enjoyed it. I've watched it on and off when it was on TV. I never actually sat down and just, watched it with, 100% focus on it.
Yeah, beginning to end.
Exactly. I don't think I've ever saw the beginning, because, again, you just catch it on TV. I was like, oh, the Wizard of Oz, I like it. But the beginning, I thought was kind of fun, interesting.
Yeah.
I did not know that she met, actually, the people she met in Oz. They're actually really people in, her life there.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of interesting. And then she sees them in Oz. It was very fun. It seems like dumb to say, but the contrast between black and white and color when she reaches Oz is like insanely effective, even though it seems so simple,
Oh, it's really striking.
Yeah, exactly. And just for that, you see, we're really in a different land now, and it's a very fun experience to watch. If you've never seen it, if you just heard of it, or just saw pieces of it, you should totally sit down and watch it. I really liked it.
I agree. It zips by very fast is what amazed me.
Yeah.
It's sort of like I was watching it and then it was over and I was like, oh, already. Well, that's interesting.
I know, and it doesn't. It's not a short movie. But it just flies by.
It really does. I agree with you. Like, so much emphasis is going to be put on obviously the Land of Oz, and we're definitely going to talk about it. But I do want to talk about the prologue to that, the black and white sequence, because it tells more or less of a full story, and it's actually a very endearing, interesting story. I like that story. When the tornado happens and I know that she's going to be taking the Land of Oz, I almost felt like, hey, I actually like the movie so far. I don't want it to go away just yet. I got engrossed in this little girl's reaction to having her dog taken away by her very mean neighbor.
Yeah, but, that story seemed complete. She got her dog. Game over. She's back home, It's like, okay, now we need to move to another story. I think, it was time for something to happen.
But she wanted to run away from home because she felt the injustice of having her dog taken away this way and everybody just caving to this woman's will.
Yeah.
And everybody's caving to this woman's will because she's rich and owns about 3/4 of the town. They exposit on that.
Yeah.
And so everybody's powerless against her. And it's that I like the idea of like how those sort of social injustices are sort of processed by the mind of a child, and that
Yeah.
was an interesting story in and of itself.
That's true.
Because I understand why she wants to run away. She feels the world is unfair. I'm going to find a better world.
Oh, that's interesting.
And the characters that she meets, like you said, like they're reflected in the Land of Oz. So you meet the guy who's going to be the Scarecrow. You meet the guy who's going to be a robot. They shortchanged the guy who's going to be a robot a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Yeah.
But I like the fact that, you expect the Cowardly Lion to be a cowardly man in the real world, and the brainless Scarecrow to be a stupid man in the real world. But that's not what it is. It's the Scarecrow accuses Dorothy of not using her brain.
Yeah.
The Cowardly Lion accuses Dorothy of not being brave. It's the other way around.
That's true. That's interesting. And then we reach Oz.
Yes, and then we reach Oz.
Honestly, I thought the first song in Oz, with the Munchkins, that actually to me felt long. To a certain point, I was like, stop with the song so we can get on with the story.
That thing lasts for fucking ever.
I know, doesn't it? It is crazy. It's like, okay, yeah, the witch is dead. It was like, where's the yellow brick? Okay, we get it. Okay, we get it.
I agree about the length, but for me, what made it feel even longer is the fact that I was like, it's kind of dark, because there's this woman, I don't care how mean she was, but she had a house crushed on her. So, okay, fine, the Munchkins are happy about it, but like they are singing and dancing about the death of this person. Then the coroner comes by and sings about like, yep, she's dead for real, people. High five. It's really dark when you consider that these are the fantasies of a little girl.
Interesting.
You
Yeah.
know, that's really dark material.
Now that I think about it, yeah, that is true.
And that's what perturbed me about it. I was watching it, I was going like, man, Dorothy needs some help, yo.
Well, I mean, her dog had just been taken away, so I mean, I'm sure given a few, 2 or 3 days later, she would have been, not as dark and, intent on murder as she is now.
I love that in the movie when the neighbor takes the dog into real life. She's like, the dog is going to be destroyed, because you can't say killed in a children's movie in 1939. That's sort of a no-no in a real life situation. At least you can't do that. So dog is going to be destroyed, which is sort of a very vague term for what's going to happen to the dog.
Yeah.
But it's okay for the little girl to fantasize about a full musical sequence about a witch being dead as dead can be, and everybody like high-fiving each other over it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and then, yes, she is accused of having taken the witch's life, and she was like, no, it was an accident. I just dropped a house on her by accident.
Yeah.
But...
Which leads to one of the funny scenes in the movie when the good witch, Belinda, I think her name is, she appears and she asks her, are you a good witch or a bad witch? And then followed a few, seconds later about explaining how, bad witch are ugly and good witch look good.
Yeah.
So why did she ask Dorothy if she was a good witch or a bad witch? That's just terrible.
I didn't think of that, but that is hilarious. I'm also amused at the fact that these are dubious morals. Like, bad people are ugly, good people are good looking. Like, if you think in our era of stranger danger, which was not 1939, that's sort of a really dangerous lesson to teach your kids.
That is true. That's something I had not even considered. Wow.
At the end, each Munchkin, well, not each Munchkin, but like some Munchkins are singing alone and saying like, goodbye, like, have a good journey, all the thing. The last two, if you listen to them, sound exactly like Chip and Dale from Rescue Rangers. Like, the first one is Chip, the second to last one is Chip, and the last one is Dale. That's their voice.
Did not notice that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Alright, so that song, really long. The other songs, much better, though.
Yeah, they were enjoyable, short, to the point, I did feel that at one point the line starts a song out of nowhere. It's like, that song was not prompted. What are you doing?
well, they all sing, though. And they all sing to the same tune. I don't know if you noticed, but the Scarecrow and the Robot and the Lion, they're actually singing the same song.
But you call them the Tin Man instead of the Robot. It's kind of funny.
I'm going to do that a lot, because in my mind it's always been a robot. Yeah, it's a Tin Man.
Even worse, because they made him rust even though tin does not rust. I mean, what is the deal with that? Iron rust, maybe copper rusts as well. Tin does not rust. It does not react that well with oxygen. So, I don't know what he was, maybe just pretending to be rusted there because he didn't want to work anymore. It's like, I'm just going to wait here, pretend I'm rusted or something. I don't know what his whole shenanigan was, but, we've got our eyes on you, Tin Man.
I think he's like Iron Man. Like, he's not really made of tin the same way that Iron Man's not really made of iron.
I guess. But yeah, the Scarecrow and Tin Man, though, they sing when they meet. And then, the Lion, though, he sings by himself, around nobody. Like, a few minutes after they've met, it just seemed odd to me. Why don't you just sing when you meet the other guys? Like,
That's true.
Maybe he was afraid of singing in front of them. I don't know. Cowardly or something.
Well, his introduction is different, though, because the other guys, like, she just meets and sort of helps them along, and then they join her, whereas him, he attacks them.
Yeah.
So, he can't sing and say, put him up at the same time,
Yeah. No, but after they accept them, okay, you're forgiven, and he could have sang then, I'm just saying.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know if that would have been a weird tonal shift.
That is a good point. Yeah, maybe the tone would have been, like, kind of weird.
But I love the actors who play all three of them, I have to say. Especially the Scarecrow, he has this, like, a fantastic way of dancing and moving around as if he was boneless.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic and so much fun to watch.
Yeah.
Almost makes up for the fact that Dorothy comes off. Like, I like the casting of Judy Garland. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I think she's really good, and I think she captures very well, especially the way a child looks at an adult. Like the way she just stares at people when she talks to them or is listening to them is like the way a child does. Like her eyes are just really wide eyed, and there's this sort of expression of going like, must communicate that I'm not going to miss a beat, even though clearly I'm sort of only half listening kind of thing going on in her face. That's great acting, but she is also like something like 20 years too old for the role.
What was up back then? No child actors?
There was Shirley Temple, so there were child actors.
I guess.
No, there was some controversy. A lot of people felt like, oh, really, you're going to cast somebody that old? But I think they wanted somebody who had the voice.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Somewhere Over the Rainbow is such a beautiful, beautiful song. I understand the Victor Fleming's wanting to just go like, no, I want somebody to sing that song well. That's what I want.
Okay, that makes sense.
But as a result, like, sometimes I couldn't help myself going like, is she an adult with mental retardation?
I thought you were going to say worse, so okay, it's all good. Like something like, oh, Dorothy's kind of hot, It would have been terrible.
No. I was looking at her going like, is this of mice and men? Like,
oh, yeah, okay, I could see that.
But so like her casting sort of bothered me in this sort of like it's my baggage, not the movie's fault sort of way.
Once you get over the fact that okay, she's supposed to play a kid. Yeah, it's hard to at the beginning when you see her. First I'm going to take my dog away. You really, it's a good point you mentioned, like of Mice and Men, like with Lenny and his mice. It's like you almost feel that way, But then okay, no, she's supposed to play a kid. But then her acting is good enough that it doesn't bother you after a while that she's a kid. Okay, she's a kid. I get it.
Yeah,
she plays a good kid.
No, absolutely, she really does. And I love her interaction with those three companions. I think they're so charming and so funny, and they sing well too.
Yeah, no, she gets attacked by the lion, and she's like a kid, immediately forgiving. And it's like, oh no, okay, you're cool. I like you. Come with us. Now we're friends. We fought a few seconds ago, but now. Oh, good, like a kid would forgive, and I completely like that.
Yeah.
So they reach the Emerald City, which I guess is a pretty cool city if you just show up there and you get pampered and and they take care of you and everything, which is pretty nice, But the wizard is pretty hard to, reach. But since the Wicked Witch showed up and, called Dorothy by name, then it's like, oh, you're that Dorothy. Okay, go talk to the wizard. Which, I guess it's pretty nice that the witch helped out that way, And then they're told they have to go kill the witch. Well, not kill the witch. Sorry, they can't use that word.
Well, they don't even have to do that. They just need to get the broom.
Take a broom. But in the book, I remember, and Oz says, well, you kill the witch of the east, now you go kill the witch of the west. They actually, in the book, it was actually said, get rid of her, not just get the broom.
Because the Wizard of Oz loves symmetry.
I guess so, So they're forced to go, and apparently, the witch is made of, I don't know, soluble material.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I'm guessing it never rains in the Land of Oz, which is why it's on the other side of the rainbow. But
I guess so. Or she never takes a bath or, eat.
Well, that's why they're ugly.
Oh, it makes sense. or she doesn't eat and drink. I'm melting from the inside.
She's like my cat. She only eats dry foods.
Okay, that makes sense.
Speaking of animals, just briefly, I love the flying monkeys. I'm guessing they used puppets for that.
Yeah.
And they look more real than the digital creatures in Oz the Great and Powerful that came out.
I'm
a
not
few
even
years
surprised,
back.
honestly.
I find those puppets look great. Like there was one that's always next to the Wicked Witch,
Yeah.
and just sort of looking at her, and I was looking at it going like, logically, I understand it's a puppet, but it looks like a real monkey to me.
Yeah, honestly, that was so engrossed in the movie. It didn't even cross my mind to think, oh, this is a puppet. And I was just, no, I'm watching, and there's a monkey right there. It's all good.
Yeah, well, the puppeteer I think is so good because like these are the movements of a bored monkey. Like that's what it is. Like,
Nice.
yeah. But yes, you were saying about the Wicked Witch.
Yeah, so they finally get her broom, and they go back to Oz.
Yeah.
And Oz goes back on his word.
He's a little shit, that's what Oz
Yeah,
is.
yes, he
Oz is
is.
a little shit. Because you get the distinct impression that it was like, go face the Wicked Witch who wants to kill you. That'll get rid of them permanently. Like,
Pretty much. Yeah.
He's like, in his head, he's going like, whatever happens, I win.
Well, not really, because now he's stuck with them, and it's like they want their money. Where's my money? Like, come back in a week. No, it doesn't work with Dorothy.
It's true that if you get somebody who can beat a Wicked Witch, you're stuck with an enemy that's stronger than a Wicked Witch. But
Exactly.
but like I like that battle when they essentially infiltrate the witch's lair.
Yeah.
And the set designs are gorgeous. It looks so big, and of course you know that a lot of it must have been cardboard.
Yeah.
Made to look like something, but you can't see it.
I guess with Technicolor, which was they use, it's harder to spot the fake from the real. I mean, they have real problems with that technology. I mean, I've read that Dorothy's blouse, which you think is white, but no, it's actually pink, because it's easier to make pink things look white with Technicolor than it is to make white things look white, which to me is something so odd.
In terms of special effects, this movie is amazing. I thought.
Yeah.
But yeah, you wanted to focus a little bit about Oz. Like I sidetracked you. Yeah, he's a little bit of a dick.
Yeah. And when they find him, that scene always cracked me up. Still, don't mind that man behind the curtain. It's like, seriously, I really think that's gonna work.
But it is interesting in terms of like if this is all part of Dorothy's psychosis / subconscious, if you will. That the Wizard of Oz, of course, is the fortune teller that she needs.
Yeah.
And that means that there's a part of her that knows he's a fraud.
That's true. Didn't even think that, and she's still intent on getting back home though, even though she knows that what he said about her aunt dying, or being in trouble. She knows, she kind of knows in the back of her head that it's probably not true, but she's still I don't know, still thinking to get back home, because she needs me.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is sort of implies that Dorothy just wants an excuse to go back home, and that dude gave it to her, and she knows he's full of shit, but that doesn't matter. It's an excuse to get back home.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
I find that's sort of what's fun about the Wizard of Oz is you can make the links between her magical adventure and how she feels about the world in real life.
Yeah.
She wants a world where she can just go ahead and kill the Wicked Witch, who is her neighbor. And that world is a world where there are other people like the Wicked Witch. She killed one just by arriving. So there's a chain of bad people in the world. Her world view is one where there's more than, like, she doesn't just have one enemy. The world is full of enemies.
All right.
It's a world where where people are unfulfilled and don't realize their true potential.
Okay.
That's about the three farmers that she works with who get bossed around a lot by her aunt. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And who are probably a little bit smarter and have more to offer than the aunt gives them credit. And again, you get the sense that Dorothy as a child hasn't noticed that, at least on a subconscious level.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
all of these things I find super interesting on sort of a meta level, if you will.
That's crazy. Yeah. I did like how the wizard as well managed to, give the other three what they wanted, even though he gave them nothing at all.
Yeah.
I mean, in the book, and I remember in the cartoon I saw, I forget from which year, he actually, pretends to give them something. For the scarecrow, puts a bag full of sand and nails, and he puts it in his head and says, "Hey, that's a brain," And the scarecrow thought he had a brain,
Yeah.
and he puts like a clock inside the Tin Man, and it's like that's a beating heart.
Yeah.
And he feeds the lion some crap and said, "Yeah, eat that. That's going to be courage." Whereas in this one, he just gave him a medal, and it's like, "Now you're brave." I'm like, how does that work?
My fear is the diploma. That one was the weirdest one. It was like, well, first of all, the lines related to the scarecrow not having a brain are fantastic because a lot of it is like, well, it's like, I don't have a brain. And Dorothy goes like, but how can you talk and walk? It's like, well, you hear people talk a lot without using their brains. I'll just like, yeah, I guess that's true.
That's
Which
true.
is like,
Yeah.
and as an audience member, we're like, yeah, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
And, at the end, the Wizard of Oz, he just gives them a diploma saying like, it was like, there's plenty of people who don't really have a brain, but they think and whatnot, and they have, where I come from, they have diplomas. They give people diplomas to prove that they have brains, whether or not they actually have one. And there's like, damn, that's cold.
It's even colder when the scarecrow does like the Pythagoras theorem, and he says an isosceles triangle instead of a right triangle, which is even funnier. Basically saying, yeah, you have a diploma doesn't mean you know shit. It's a very subtle touch, but I really like that.
That was my favorite one, really.
Yeah.
And of course, and the medal is sort of the same thing. You can probably link it to how people get medals.
Yeah.
And whether or not they're actually courageous or not. It's a very, very dark movie in terms of its subtext.
I know. I did enjoy you're mistaking cowardice for wisdom. It's like, yeah, he has sort of a point there, nonetheless. So then he has to bring Dorothy home using the balloon he used to come to us, and for some reason the balloon takes off, and he's not able to pump the air out to bring it back down immediately again. He's completely powerless to bring that balloon back down to the ground.
I'm still arguing that he's still being a charlatan about this. Like he doesn't actually know how to bring Dorothy to Kansas, so he's just like, oh crap, I can't get down for you. Sorry, Dorothy, bye. And then like he flies a couple of kilometers, and then he just lands and he's like, I'm done.
I guess so.
Like that's my theory. Like he's still a charlatan.
That's probable, although in the film that makes a lot of sense. It's not what really happens in your medium, but yeah, in the film actually, now that I think about it, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because anyway, you cannot control the direction your balloon goes; it follows the wind.
And then you have the Deus Ex Machina of like, the power was within you all this time. Which, I mean, in fairness, they've set it up with the three other characters that their power was always within them all this time.
Yeah. And in the book, it's like, well, she had a reason to stay, as in, she helped the others as well, so that was good. It's not just, you had these wacky adventures for absolutely nothing and then go back home. No, she helped the Scarecrow, she helped the Tin Man, she helped the Lion. It was all for, it was all for the good, so I'm fine with the, these Ex Machina shoes that,
But they set it up at the beginning. It's like, the shoes are important. Witch wants the shoes for a reason. That's the source of their conflict. So it makes sense that the shoes do something special at the end,
Yeah. The movie is the only medium where it was all a dream. Or maybe was it all a dream?
Yeah, it's the only one.
Whereas, like the other ones, it actually happened. So I was really taken back by that. It's like, well, did it really happen? It's like, it's not my favorite kind of ending to any kind of movie. It was all a dream.
Mm-hmm.
I actually get sometimes very angry when I see that as an ending.
Mm-hmm.
This one, I'm kind of ambivalent because it was one of the first ones, I'm guessing, to do that. So, okay, you're the pioneer of this. It's all good. But then again, it would be nice if the thing had actually happened. A little kind of, weird coincidental that the people she meets kind of looks like the people, that she lives around, but still.
Well, there might be an alternative explanation for that as well. Because it might be more of a case of these things don't look like anything. You know what I mean? Like, and she just sort of links them to the people she knows in her life because of their personalities.
Well, that's interesting. So yes, and also maybe her spirit traveled because she was in a coma or something. But that's getting way too metaphysical.
Yeah,
so
no,
let's forget
let's
about that.
not get into those details. That's way too complicated. But in terms of the resemblance, it might just be that like a lion looks like a lion, but she identifies the lion
Okay,
with the people she knew in her life.
that's interesting. What did you think about
The dream thing,
the dream thing.
I think that's a good question. I think there's more to it than just it being a pioneer, as the reason why it doesn't feel as much of a cop out
Yes.
as other movies that end up being a dream. There is this sort of rule that's been accepted in the geek communities and movie fans and all that dream ending equals suckage.
Yeah.
And I'd like to challenge that because it's like, why? Why does a dream ending equal suckage? Because fiction is about what it evokes in the audience, not so. It's not governed by physical laws. You know what I mean? So there's a reason why we always associate dream ending with suckage. So what do you think that is?
I have an example. It's unfortunate I cannot remember the title of the movie. It's a German movie. It was about an ex-convict that he gets out of he's doing like a jailbreak, and then his counselor says no, you don't have a lot of time left to serve, don't do that, and she kind of admits that she kind of likes him as well, so very professional, but nonetheless, so he starts thinking, and then you assume that okay, he never mind the jailbreak, he finished his time, and then he opened a restaurant. And then he gets in trouble again with the mob, and his mob kidnaps his girlfriend. And so to get back at the mobster, he cooks him in the oven like a beef Wellington. And the woman got so crazy, but from being
those are hard to cook. Sorry.
Yeah, I know they are. And the woman gets so crazy from being kidnapped that she wants to take a bite out of the guy, even though the guy's like, I'm just doing it to scare him. When he let him go, he's like, no, I want to eat him. She's so scary. And then the rest of the mobsters show up to save him, and she's like preparing to eat him with like a knife and a fork.
Oh my god!
And then you're all into this. What's going to happen? And then he ends up. He's still holding the guy a hostage as he's breaking out of jail, and he's like, no, this would never work between us. And then he breaks out of jail. As in, it kind of completely ruined the ending. As in, we wanted to know what's going to happen there.
Mm-hmm.
With was she going to eat him? What was going to happen with the other mobsters? And then you're just completely shortchanged out of the end of your movie by saying, no, this never really happened. So this is like a sucky way of doing it was all a dream thing.
Right, so what you're saying is the reason why the all a dream ending is bad is because it robs you from an actual sense of closure over the storyline you've been invested in.
Exactly.
And I think that's right. I think that's the reason why dream endings are really frustrating.
Okay.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that's why Wizard of Oz works, because you did get closure over the wizard storyline before it's revealed that it's all a dream.
That is true. Can I also put a little quick aside here?
Yeah.
If you know the movie I'm talking about, please write the name in the comments. It's been driving me mad for years. We can't remember what the title is, but yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right. It is true that, all her companions got what they want, and she is back home. Yeah. Which basically either she used the shoes or she wakes up from a dream. I guess it's the same thing. She just happens to be back home. So I can see that. Yeah. You get the complete story nonetheless.
Yeah, that's it. And I think that's the thing. I think people have a knee-jerk reaction over dream endings because of the rule. And I think the rule is probably a little bit more complicated than that. And I think if you can finish your story before you make it a dream, I think you can get away with it. Now, granted, I think there's a second element, is the idea of like, did what I see actually matter?
Okay.
And again, I think Wizard of Oz gets away with it because if you interpret everything as a dream, it's a good insight into how she processes information, social injustice, frustration, the unfair way the people the adults in her life are treated. All of this, it's a good insight into how she processes information. So it still matters even if it were a dream, and if it's not, it matters because it's a cool adventure.
Yeah, and the mad thing that matters as well. I mean, I don't get that if you get a whole movie out of it, because okay, you got the dream. Okay, well, you don't have anything before, you don't have anything after the dream. So did it matter? Well, it was just some guy's dream. It was kind of cool. What really angers people is when you saw maybe an hour of the movie or something, and then it cuts and it's like, no, this first hour didn't happen. Only maybe the first 5 minutes, and then the next hour you're watching, what's actually really going to happen. That is actually one thing when people are, get kind of angry at, well, what did you show me this first hour of nonsense that doesn't matter for the rest of the movie? Whereas here, you had a short story at the beginning to set everything up, and you had nothing really following it at the end.
It's weird because I want to talk about other It's a Dream movie, but a lot of times dream movies, it's the twist,
Yeah.
which again, Wizard of Oz doesn't do. That's not a twist. That's just a conclusion.
Good point.
And so I want to name movies, but I'm going to instantly spoil them if I name them.
Yeah.
Which I don't want to do because, maybe you'll like the movie, but I can think of a number of movies where, a lot of crazy things happen. You're like, oh, how are they going to get out of it? And then, twist ending, they don't have to get away with it because it was a dream. And you're like,
Yeah.
so, okay.
You're invested into wanting to see how are they going to get out of this. And then it's like, well, they're going to wake up. Yay, I do that every morning. There's nothing special about that,
Yeah. Let's talk about that magical sequel.
Oh my god.
Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return. We just watched the trailer together, and oh my god, this thing looks awful. It looks bad. It looks really, really bad.
Yeah, for us, it looks terrible because I don't think none of the jokes were funny. I was laughing the same way I laugh at Birdemic. I was like, this is so bad, it's almost getting awesome in the other way. But it looks like it's a serious cartoon not made in the style of Birdemic to be bad. It's made for kids. I'm not even sure kids would like the jokes. They're
no, because
terrible.
they're meant to be sort of wink at adults. But imagine if somebody said, "I ate cheese," and then winked at you, and went like, "Yeah." That's how it feels.
Yeah.
It's like, no, dude, you have to tell a joke before you wink at me.
That's a great way of putting it.
That thing looks terrible. I am not interested at all in it.
No way. Even if I had kids, I wouldn't bring them to that. I would show them the original, and that's it. Or I would show them the numerous cartoons that have been made, of the Wizard of Oz. A lot better.
The voice talent is impressive. I did get a huge chuckle when they named them all one by one, which was like, oh, come on, enough already.
Yeah.
And then they started running out of time, so when they got to Oliver Platt, they didn't even include a soundbite.
Yeah.
They just included, that goofy-looking creature is played by Oliver Platt, but you're not going to hear his voice. It's okay.
I know.
It's a freaking computer graphic, buddy.
That's a good point.
And the animation looks terrible, to be honest.
It looks like they do the minimum necessary to get the job done, and they don't draw anything extra, anything plus. It's just like, okay, I need to do this. I'm doing it in the least amount of motion possible. Now it's done. Okay, let's do the next thing. It doesn't look good at all.
It's one also where the characters seem to be over animated, like the flip side of what you're saying. Because I agree with you. Because there's a scene where the jester keeps pulling out sweaters and has more sweaters, and it's just like he does the motion to pull out the sweater, and then halfway through they just change the pattern of his costume. It's he's not even pulling it out entirely.
I know his body not reacting as well to the strain or something. It's just his arms moving and that's it.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, that's something you could have animate once and then do it 3 or 4 more times because it does it again. But no, they just did the arm thing and it was like, weird.
Yeah, but at the same time, it also looks like the sort of movie where they're animated in the sense that the characters move their entire body and dance around every time they say one line. You see a lot of spinning around in the trailer, and you see that in sometimes cheap digital animation.
Because spinning is not that hard. You have your model already, and you spin it. It's when you have to deform the model, and by doing action, then it's kind of like. But yeah, I can see the spinning completely. It's like, oh yeah, just rotate around the axis there, and there was a lot of that too.
Yeah, and I hate that because it's completely distracting because you can't even get into the voice acting because the body's just going crazy, doing crazy movements for nothing.
Yeah.
So yeah, this thing looks so bad. It looks awful.
Yeah.
Next week we are talking about Godzilla.
Sweet.
Until then, if you want to write us, share with us your love of The Wizard of Oz, and talk about which of the many, many follow-ups that occurred you liked.
Yeah.
That'd be an interesting question. I'd love to know that.
Interesting, yeah.
You can write us at mail@idiomatic.com or post a comment at idiomatic.com. We're also on Twitter at idiomatic. We're also on Facebook. We're also on iTunes. If you could write us an iTunes review or like us on Facebook, it helps us get the support to continue generating content for you guys. Otherwise, I will have no choice but to throw Nick in a hurricane and hopes he reaches that place over the rainbow.
It was a tornado, you dumbass.
Yeah, it's true. Like in Kansas and hurricanes, like where does it get the water?
Yeah, exactly.